Happy Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 126, as I am in the fortified bunker at the Primetime Radio Studios in an undisclosed location in New Jersey, as the weather has turned into a complete windy downpour, as my co-host Nick Villano of pucksandpitchforks.com is also in the rain in somewhere in Tampa. Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Sam Wu, streaming live on Facebook Live, Twitter Live, YouTube Live, and Twitch on the Primetime Radio Network. Nick, we're on live air. Our fans are happy. It's the week before Labor Day weekend. And what are we talking today? We're talking the business of hockey. Hockey business.
We're talking a little business. You gotta give it that little, that North Jersey Italian slang. Business. We're talking business. You want to talk about business? Let's talk about business, okay? Let's talk about business. So we're going to talk about the business of hockey, okay? I'm terrible at Italian accents, and I'm Italian, so I'm just... Anyway, but that was my little mobster. You know, I'm never gonna be the Don, but maybe I could be the seventh in command. You know, like the guy who's got the annoying voice, like Clamps on Futurama. I feel like I'm Clamps from Futurama. That's my role in life. So I'm gonna keep saying business. But anyway, I'm excited about tonight's podcast. We got two good guests, two great guests, to talk business of hockey. We're going to talk about jersey ads. We're going to talk about Olympics. We're going to talk about marketing brothers for some reason. We're going to talk about big signings. We're just going to talk about business in general, the business of hockey. So this is going to be a fun episode. Been a little slow, Sam. I do want to say that, my thoughts are out with everybody in New Jersey. Stay safe. Stay dry. Stay away from floodwaters. Don't drive through them because your car will not get out, and then you will be swimming home. So just everybody, it's going to rain a lot tonight. There's going to be tornado warnings, but if you're on high ground, you don't have to tell me I'm in a fortified studio bunker right now. It's impossible. I mean, if there was a nuclear thing going down, there'd be cockroaches, taxes, and the Let's Go Devils podcast and State of the Fan Address left in New Jersey. I am stronger than hurricanes. Let's go. It's surprising that on the one in Florida, we're talking about tropical storms coming to Jersey. It seems like just this weird coincidence. And my thoughts are out with everybody who's been impacted. Like the photos from New Orleans and all that are pretty terrible. But I don't want to. I want to be a nice little distraction for everybody. Kind of get people talking about hockey again. And here's the funny thing, Sam.
What's that?
We did this podcast for 10 months in between games last year. Mm-hmm. 10 months. We did a podcast, a weekly podcast about a very specific team. And we had no games. We had no games to talk about. We had, the offseason didn't start until October. We had nothing. We had no moves to talk about. We really stretched out the speculation season. But it seems like now is the time where it's just like news has come to an absolute halt. There's a couple interesting things, like there's a couple signings that are very questionable. There's the Carolina Hurricanes signing Jesper Kotkaniemi, which is just hilarious. I think that contract is terrible. I think it was a dumb move by Carolina. I don't think Kotkaniemi is worth a first and a third round pick. But the way they did it, writing it in French, mimicking the way that the Canadians wrote their thing when they signed Sebastian Aho 2 years ago, it was chef's kiss. So I won't forget. I won't let all this make me forget that they signed Tony DeAngelo, and I hate them. But for now, it's a funny anecdote for the Hurricanes to kind of get back on the good side of hockey Twitter.
I'm wondering if the social media staff down in Carolina was working alongside the GM when this all went down.
I mean, I'm sure
That's
they
great.
have to at least they had to get some things cleared. I think all of them have to go that hard because they embarrassed the Canadians.
Oh,
to
totally.
go that hard on them, you have to get that approved because that's gonna there's never gonna be a Hurricanes Canadians move ever again.
Yeah.
At least not until new regimes are in both places. Because they stuck the knife in and then twisted and then they put the head of the Canadians on a stake and stuck it outside the castle. They did some Game of Thrones stuff with that. It was gnarly.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Carolina, when they won their Stanley Cup back in 2006, it was redneck hockey and now turned to a bunch of jerks in the last couple years. And, this is what makes hockey fun. I mean, I think it was great. I thought it was great. It was a little edgy, but it was just poking fun. They got their revenge. Now we move on. But yeah, speaking of moving on, I should get our next guest, Owen, on in a couple minutes. And social media, say hello to them. There's so many nice words going around on the Facebook Live and YouTube Live.
Yeah, I'll start talking to some people. Got to get on YouTube Live. Sam always yells at me. He's like, why do you ignore the YouTube? And I was like, Sam, you do the YouTube. I do the Facebook. That's how it works. But let's take a look at what's going on with all of the things. But we'll start with Facebook. We got somebody says I have Viagra hair. Matt Junio says I have Viagra hair. That's the greatest compliment I've ever gotten in my life. I do have nice hair. I'm not going to have a lack of confidence for it. But I told my wife this is the only time you're ever going to see this hair this long, so we might as well enjoy it. I've actually come up with multiple Halloween costumes that I'm excited to try out. So it's a fun journey. It was obviously a pandemic journey, just kind of seeing where we got with it. Now it's looking very Yager-ish. I have to agree. It's not looking too bad. So I feel like the shaving that I did, I don't have the beard. I got the playoff beard going on, so I feel like that accentuates the hair. Mike Rossi sending prayers to everybody in PA, New Jersey, Maryland, and Virginia. Yeah, I mean, our thoughts are out for everybody, so I want to make sure that everybody knows that we're thinking of them. But yeah, I mean, it's been a slow week. It really has been a slow week, and there's just I hear ringing. I think Sam is calling on the podcast.
Doing well. How are you?
Sam, I can hear him. I don't know if it's on the air. I don't think Sam can hear me. So this is interesting. Back of the house stuff from Sam. So I guess we have our guest at least. At least we know that. But anyway, that's why. Wow, that is wildly throwing me off. Anyway, there hasn't been a lot of news. The Colton Parayko deal is very interesting. I have a piece coming out tomorrow on why the Colton Parayko deal makes us appreciate Damon Severson. So that's an interesting piece. Just kind of threw some things together. Just the contracts for defensemen have been absolutely wild this offseason. $9.5 million for Seth Jones, crazy. Whatever Darnell Nurse got was insane. I liked Darnell Nurse, and I've always advocated for the Devils to go after him when I thought he was available. But $9 million for Darnell Nurse. He's not what do you think he is? Is he a top 10 defenseman in this league? I don't think anybody can argue that. You're giving him $9 million, and you could have had Dougie Hamilton for free, or not for free, for $9 million, but you could have had nobody's going after Dougie Hamilton, and you're giving Darnell Nurse $9 million. What is I don't know what is going on there. I'm happy we got Dougie Hamilton. I'm happy. That's looking like a deal right now. But that Damon Severson contract looks like an absolute steal. 2 more years. For and less than $250,000. So what a wonderful, wonderful contract that is. But yeah, I'm still going solo here. There's Sam. Sam, you got me?
Yeah, I gotcha. I probably left the button unmuted, didn't I?
That's okay. That's okay.
Did you enjoy the conversation?
It was a
Eavesdropping?
one-sided conversation because you were on mute. So, but it was fine.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what?
At least
Mistakes happen.
I know. Hey, I know the guest is here, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, well, I know we're talking about business of hockey, but next time, Nick, none your business. You're not supposed to eavesdrop. Anyway, sorry about that, folks. Our next guest, his name is Owen Poindexter, lead business writer for Front Office Sports. You can find him on Twitter at Owen Poindexter. Owen, you're on with Sam and Nick. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. Hello?
No, I got you, Owen. Sorry. I
Okay. Thought I was on mute too.
No. Yeah, we're on mute. We're not on mute. We got to get the mute buttons going correctly. This is an audio medium, so we got to make sure that people
I'm blaming it on
correctly.
Ida. It's all Ida, not my fault.
Oh, it's Ida's fault. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely hitting us here in Berkeley, California, messing up our phone lines.
That's what's happening.
That was a joke.
We're just we're blaming everything on it. It's fine. But Owen, you're somebody I'm always interested on the sports business writers or the sports business journalists because it's just it's such a cliche topic and it's something that impacts so many things. And you kind of get into it and really kind of dig into the business of sports. It just impacts so much and it impacts so many decisions. It impacts decisions from front office to player development to stadium selection to location of the team, and there's so many different aspects of it. Maybe real quick, just tell me what made you get into sports business?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a sports fan, and I got into sports writing a few years ago at this point. And yeah, this opportunity came along, and it's really interesting because you're right, it's kind of how sports touches everything. When you're just covering hockey, covering baseball, whatever it is, you're really thinking like inside the sport, like, what does this signing mean for the team construction, that kind of thing. Sports business is more like, what does this media deal mean for hockey's place in the culture? And so you kind of get to touch both a lot of different sports, but how sports interacts with the rest of the world. And it's a very blurry line. The more you get into it, the more you see sports as kind of part of this big web of money going in and out, and just like how a lot of billionaires and millionaires move their money around both in and out of the games, out of leagues, out of sports, and you kind of get this feel for what is where the culture is moving, where people's interests are, both in terms of how they consume media and also the media they want to consume. So it's really interesting. You get to touch a lot of different things, and it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So last I checked, you had already written 4 articles today. So you're definitely banging them out. You're hitting on every single aspect of sports business. But I found you with the Jersey Ads article that you did a couple weeks ago. But I'm curious, there's been a lot of media business stories that have come out, especially in the hockey world. What's one that stood out for you from the past couple months?
Yeah, I mean, so the NHL just signed some media deals for the next 7 years. I'm actually not sure offhand when they kick in. Might be next year. Anyway, so okay, yeah. So it was 7 years apiece with Disney, which of course owns ESPN, and Turner, which is TNT and TBS. And from now, when I think of kind of ranking the sports in terms of bigness, however you want to define that. Now that I'm a sports business writer, one of the ways you can really get a read on that is the size of the media deal. And so the NHL is bringing in, it's something like, if you add those two together, I think it's 2.8 for Disney and 1.5, I want to say, for Turner. So 4.3 billion over 7 years. Not nothing by any means, but no. The NFL makes that in, like half a season, basically. The NBA they're negotiating their new deals. They're going to be huge. Not quite NFL huge, probably, but huge. But the NHL is still bringing in billions. Still certainly not nothing. And the Disney part of this is going to be interesting. There's going to be live games on ESPN for the first time in a whole bunch of years. And they've got this property now. They're paying $400 million a year for it, which even for Disney, that's not nothing. and they're going to try to make something of this. They're going to try to put a lot of their talent behind it. Like John Buccigross, Linda Cohn, Barry Melrose. Like they might try to make these figures their personalities that get more media play, and maybe they'll try to make the sport itself something of a media property that gets eyeballs. Because and you were talking about sports and culture and business where it all fits together. As everyone moves towards streaming, and there's the number of new cable customers gets fewer and fewer, and everyone just is picking their streaming services. Live sports is something that every major media company wants to draw people in, because do you want the dramas on Hulu or on Netflix or on HBO? It's a little bit random probably which one you pick. It's kind of just what you're into at the moment. But are you into hockey or baseball or football? Like those things are more static. And so if you have to get Amazon to watch Thursday Night Football, okay, maybe you're finally going to get Amazon Prime. Or if you're going to have to get ESPN Plus to watch certain hockey games, all right, yeah, maybe that's the thing that's going to push you over the edge. So they're going to try to make something out of this. There's some rumors that we reported at FOS that they're going to try to have a top hockey reporter, the way they've got Jeff Passan for baseball and Adam Schefter for football. They want the hockey guy for that. So they're going to try to make this more of a thing where there's drama and excitement that kind of centers around their little ESPN world.
I'm available, by the way.
Hey, yeah, I'll let them know.
So kind of changing gears a little bit, the Olympics were a mess. I'm sure you saw how much of a mess the Olympics were this year. Well, they're going to try again next year, this time with the Winter Olympics, and all signs point that the NHL is sending its players to the Olympics. This is usually a good marketing opportunity for the NHL. They decided to not go last time, 4 years ago. Now they're going again. It's in Beijing. There's obviously a lot of reasons why that matters, why it matters that it's in China. Obviously, the reasons are a little different, but we don't have to get into that. I want to know what your thought is of what kind of marketing opportunity the Olympics plays for the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, just in general, the Olympics should be a great opportunity for the NHL. I think hockey has a chance to be one of the 2 or 3 biggest sports at the Olympics. In any Olympics, summer or winter, it feels like there's 2 or 3 sports that kind of take over, and everything else is just kind of like, oh yeah, there's also synchronized swimming. There's all sorts of things you can watch. Some of which you'd be very surprised are Olympic events. But hockey it felt like that 8 years ago, at least to me. I mean, I'm biased, but that it was one of the big things that there's like downhill skiing. There's maybe a couple other things you get into. Everyone loves curling, but hockey can really like the rivalries are really passionate, even though these are teams that are just thrown together. It feels like a big deal when like Canada beats Sweden, and and there's big stars to get excited about. I don't know how ambitious the NHL is in terms of marketing in Asia, but if it has any feelings around that, this would be the time to try to make a splash. I mean, the NBA is huge in China, so maybe there's opportunity there to try to introduce hockey to the biggest audience in the world, arguably. So those are all a lot of big reasons why this could be a big moment for the NHL, for hockey. All that said, COVID is still a thing, and it really obviously made life incredibly difficult for the Tokyo Olympics. And I mean, that was like the story I was covering for, I mean, we cover everything, but that was the one that just kept resurfacing of like, here's the next terrible thing that happened in the Tokyo Olympics. Once the Olympics were starting, it was like, okay, like at least they're happening. At least it's a thing now. But for a while, it felt like they might be canceled. Also, I mean, there could be boycotts. There could be, the U.S. could boycott the Olympics. And there could be momentum around getting other countries to do that. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it's a big fat we'll see. And obviously, hockey is a very international sport, and there might be splits around who goes, who doesn't. But I mean, that could be a real factor in terms of both who's available, who they can market and showcase during the games, but also like how people feel about it. Like if there's kind of this like icky, like crossing picket lines kind of feeling around going to the Olympics at all. So there's like the whole range of possibilities here where it could be this great moment for hockey where it introduces itself to a huge new audience and showcases some of its best players and introduces new rivalries and is kind of like the big thing that all of a sudden an international audience is watching. Or on the flip side, it could just be a train wreck. And, you know, I think if it's a train wreck, it probably not too much of that shrapnel will get on the NHL itself. I don't think people will like boycott watching hockey because of anything that's going to happen at the Olympics. But it could be something where all this possibility just kind of crumbles away in everything that could potentially go wrong with the Olympics, which it's hard to believe we're already like gearing up for another one after all that, but we are because of, I mean, it's because the last one was postponed, but yeah, so it's the full range of outcomes is available here. But yeah, the upside is big. The Winter Olympics should be huge for hockey. I think they should go every time.
So I want to pivot a little bit. We are the Let's Go Devils podcast. I want to start talking a little Devils. I know that they gather your rooting interest, so you've probably been paying attention to what they've been doing and looking at it from that marketing eye, from that business eye. So it's the 2021 NHL Draft. It falls pretty much exactly how we think. Owen Power, Matt Beniers. Number 4, the Devils are looking at the brother of their star player, Jack Hughes, sitting on the couch next to him, available to them, and they select Luke Hughes. The reaction went viral. People were talking about the Devils. The Devils, Tom Fitzgerald was doing interviews everywhere. The Hughes parents were doing interviews everywhere. It seemed like a great marketing success right off the bat. But what do you think is going to be the marketing success of this? What, from your business mind, how are you looking at the Hughes brothers on the same team?
I mean, it's great. You know, you can't really ask for a better story, especially out of the draft. I mean, how often do you get any kind of media buzz from the NHL draft outside of NHL insider circles? So yeah, and it's an awesome story. It'll be really great if Luke Hughes can either be a star or at least a productive player, maybe play alongside his brother. Even better if they can somehow get Quinn in on the action, though that don't hold your breath, I guess, on that one. But no, it's an awesome story, and a kind of a rare one in any sport where you have two family members playing in the league simultaneously, let alone brothers on the same team. But then it's not going to by itself. It won't be the thing that brings droves of fans out to see the team or gets them to tune in. They might if they do a good job kind of capturing this narrative, it might get people to check them out. But then the product itself has to be something that keeps people coming back. With any of these things, like the Dougie Hamilton signing, it might get people to check out the team initially, but they're not going to come back for 10, 20 games a year, either from their TVs or actually showing up, if they're not engaged by the product itself. And so, the team has to win. There has to be excitement. All the normal things still have to happen, but it's nice that they have. The brothers' narrative is great. The signing's great. All this stuff is generating buzz, but buzz is buzz. It doesn't last around forever. But it gives them an opportunity to start something, and really, what's going to do it is sustained winning. Not every. There are teams out there who are perennial winners and people still don't show up, but I think people love the Devils. People want to get excited about the Devils, but when they made the playoffs once in the last 4 years, if I'm remembering correctly, and people want to root for a winner. That's how you get the bandwagon fans. That's how you get people showing up just to have an experience at the rink. Bring the family, that whole thing, and the brothers is kind of icing on the cake, but you need the cake.
So this is great. Owen, you're doing the transitions for me, and I love when I get a guest on that does the transitions for me because I want to talk about winning. and the impact it has on the bottom line, the impact it has on the team as a whole, what all of that means. So focusing just on the Dougie Hamilton signing, how big of a deal is that for the business of Devils and the business of hockey in New Jersey?
Yeah, I mean, when you sign, arguably the number one free agent that was out there, that's always going to be a big deal. You're always going to be able to get excitement around the team. Fans who are maybe kind of slipping off the bandwagon, maybe you get them back in. But again, it gives you a moment. You get a moment at the signing. You might get some moments at the start of the season. You might get some preseason buzz about like, oh, watch out for the Devils. They could make a move. They could be a surprise team this year. But then once you're playing, if they go 2-9 in the first 11 games, then those people that had one foot off the bandwagon, they might stay off the bandwagon. So yeah, I think the Devils do. I mean, I give them credit for trying. Some teams, it's like, you're running a hockey team out there. They have consistently tried to get impact players. The results haven't really been there recently. And fans like me who remember 1995, who remember the early 2000s, we're not going to sustain a fan base forever. You need younger people in there too. Sorry, I hear my kids in the background.
Oh, no, you're fine.
So yeah, I think you don't want to be thought of those teams that's one of the teams that's kind of always in the rarely makes the playoffs, so it's like a surprise when they make the playoffs. You want to be a team that's always fighting and like always feels like they could be in there, like could make a cup run. And so I think in terms of marketing the team, yeah, absolutely, these big signings help. Having two star brothers on the team is awesome. But that can turn really depressing or just like something that people don't care about anymore if it doesn't feel like the team's going anywhere. So, and I think especially for a team like the Devils who live in a dense state, there is a big audience out there for them. They just have to generate some excitement because there's a lot of competition for people's eyeballs and attention right now. And, not that many people want to tune into a sort of moribund, like loses 3 out of every 4 hockey games kind of team. So I think, I have a lot of optimism. I'm nothing but optimistic, especially about the Devils. But yeah, the results have to be there in the end for people to keep showing up.
Owen, this has been great. I love talking business. We're gonna have lots of business stories soon, so we're gonna invite you back on to talk business. But before I let you go, I kind of want you to plug your stuff. Like I said, you've been writing all day. You write all day yesterday. Just tell people where they can find your stuff and what you got coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way to find me is to go to frontofficesports.com and sign up for the newsletter. We produce 2 a day. I usually write 3 of the stories that are in there. We do 7 main articles a day and a bunch of what we call conversation starters, these little quick hits, and a bunch of other stuff in there. It's a fun little newsletter. It keeps you abreast of just kind of what's going on. I am more up on sports that I frankly, didn't pay much attention to before I got into this gig. And it's fun. It gives you kind of a finger on the pulse. They're quick little articles, usually about 200 words, which, just the whole thing will take you 5 minutes to read. So you can find me there. You can also find me, of course, at the website itself, frontofficesports.com, or on Twitter at Owen Poindexter. And yeah, we write about all kinds of stuff. Like today, I wrote about Tencent, which is one of the biggest video game companies in China. I'll say right half the time I can't even remember the things I wrote at the end of the day because it's all kind of a whirlwind. I wrote about U.S. gymnastics. I wrote about Disney's media streaming empire and what they're doing with that. I wrote about wrestling yesterday, which that's one of those things where it's like, have I ever watched wrestling in the last 10 years? I'm not sure, but I read about it a lot actually, and it's interesting. There's huge business around it. So yeah, it gives you a feel for what's going on in the world of sports business, and like I said, you feel like you have a sense of where sports is in the culture, where it's touching, where the money's moving in and out. And there's action in there every day. Sports business is a sport itself, and it's fun to cover it.
That's frontofficesports.com. Read about the business of sports. Something happens, make sure you check out Front Office Sports. and Owen Poindexter, lead business writer. Owen, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, guys. Love being here.
Thank you, Owen. That
All right,
is
thanks.
Owen Poindexter. You can find him on Twitter at Owen Poindexter. He was money. He was money. I like talking about money.
It's interviews like that, Sam, that make me love this podcast.
Of course.
Because I find these guys because I'm just looking around. I'm like, oh, who should I bring on the podcast this week? What should I do for a guest? Like, should I get, like, especially these slow weeks when there's not, like, something, like, right in your face about it. You know what I mean? And I'm like, let me look around. Let me see who's writing about the Devils. And then I find this. I find him. He wrote a story about the Devils. And, yeah. Is that going on your side, Sam?
What's going on my side?
I hear a door. Is that in yours or is that?
Oh, well, I'm in a fortified bunker primetime radio studios. Of course you didn't hear a door slam. Nothing can get through here.
That's fair.
No, I'm just covering tracks right now.
Okay, no, you're fine. I just want to make sure it was coming from. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out where the sound's coming from, Sam.
This is what happens. This is what happens right before Labor Day weekend. Things get out of control. You've got Ida making its way through New Jersey. You've got the Devils 15 days away from training camp. You've got 44, 43 days to opening night. And also, in the midst of everything, I entered myself in a little bit of a contest that the New Jersey Devils are doing. I wouldn't say contest. I shouldn't say contest. I shouldn't say contest. I should say, because it's a legitimate job to be the Devils PA announcer. They actually asked for resumes, Nick.
Ooh.
Resumes. They want a demo. They want your name, phone number, and experience, if any. That was what I had to fill out. I tell you more, but just keep it to pucksandpitchforks.com, because probably around Saturday, my blog is going to drop about my experience and why I applied for the Devils PA announcer position.
It's Big Saturday piece. I love it.
Oh,
I love
yeah.
the Big Saturday piece.
Yeah.
I'm going to be writing all weekend. My wife's got work, so I'm going to do nothing but speculation season, maybe a couple of history pieces. It's going to be fun. I got it's football season, so I'm back on the front page of fansided.com with a couple football pieces. I got one coming out tomorrow. My college football piece came out on Tuesday. Power ranking the conferences. That's what I'm doing this year, Sam. Doing something a little different. So just trying.
Let me tell you something about college football. Penn State is going to win the national championship this year. I can't say it with a straight face.
You should say it with a straight face. That's like me saying West Virginia, national champions. You know what we are, Sam? We are the team in college football with the most wins of all time.
The people have fan-sided.
That's never won a championship.
The people have fan-sided that run the Mets stuff. I mean, the news that came out today, you can't make this stuff up, Nick. Can't make this stuff up. I mean, you know.
It's hard to be a Mets fan, Sam.
You know what? It's just like hockey, and because I'm going to tie in with hockey, even though we're talking about baseball. As a Mets fan, on my on cable or satellite, it literally, you're watching the Mets, and you realize that if you hit the channel button, one channel down, that other team that also plays in that city, called the Yankees, they don't have these problems. They never have these problems. Yeah, they have issues here.
I mean, they got problems. They got problems.
But not like the Mets.
They don't got – no, the Mets take it to some kind of weird level.
But yeah, it's, anyway, I'm already, spreading conspiracy theories of why that happened. Maybe there's a new GM on the horizon, but this is a hockey podcast. I'll save it for another podcast, another day. So I should probably get our next guest. And I think you booked 2 guests today for the purpose of let me try to get it right the second time around as I try to get our guest on.
Of course, always. It's business day. It's business and business on business. I'm excited about this season. I know a lot of you are too. It's September. We got Devils hockey this month. Preseason starts this month. That is so exciting. I am so excited for Devils hockey. I just want to see Dougie wearing that jersey on the ice. I want to see some of those prospects get a shot in the preseason. I love the preseason. The preseason is so much fun because you kind of get to see players that you won't see a lot of. I try to catch some AHL games. I try to see what the AHL team is doing. Honestly, last year I couldn't do it. I'll be honest. I'm sad because I love me some Rob Lapolus. I'm still gonna try to see if we can keep him around just to kind of, because we gotta get that ESPN voice on here. We gotta get it on here. So I'll see where he ends up, and we'll talk to him, kind of see what's going on with him, get a little interview with him. But watching more losing was just not in the cards last year. I watched every Devils game. Maybe I missed one. But watching 55 games of that team, and then you add in the AHL team, which just went in the tank for no reason, I couldn't do it again. But this year, I love watching the AHL guys in the preseason. I'm going to try to catch some AHL games. I'm going to try to be more on it. I watch the highlights when I can, and I write about it when I can. But I do love the preseason because you get the experience of those guys. We missed the preseason last year. We didn't get that experience. We didn't really have a training camp. They did the scrimmages, which are fun, but there were so many false flags in those scrimmages. Remember Josh Jacobs was a guy we thought could make the team because Josh Jacobs was dominating those scrimmages, and he ended up on the third line in the AHL. So it was, it was really hard to tell what you were watching. You really, it's like, oh, goals. Oh, great. Somebody scored goals. But it's like, it's hard to tell what's going on in between those things because the game is so fast. It's moving. And there's no actual stats. There's no actual things to follow. You're just kind of like going by the seat of your pants. So last year was weird. And then there was the shock retirement. There's the shock retirement for from Crawford. So that one kind of threw me off. And sorry, just trying to help Sam out with this.
Let me come back here. Let me come back here to bail you out here.
I sent it to you.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what happened.
Let me get even. Hey, you know what? At least I'm not the only one screwing up on this podcast.
Listen, I don't even know how is that even possible. But anyway, so yeah, I'm excited for September hockey, and I'm excited. The season starts. I think it's 44 days. I think is what they put out today. Maybe it's 43 now. Speaking of 43, I want a Luke Hughes Michigan jersey. That is one thing. It's my birthday month. For anybody who wants to buy me a present, get me that Luke Hughes jersey. Oh man, that's an exciting one. I got a couple West Virginia hockey jerseys because I called the team for a little while, so ended up getting some jerseys in the time being, and that was a lot of fun doing that. Doing a little play-by-play for hockey it's got to be the hardest sport. I've done it for basketball. I've done it for baseball. I didn't do it for football, but I've done it for soccer. I've done it for a couple others, but hockey is so fast. The numbers are flying by you. You're trying to, you're trying to really hamper in. So I got to hand it to guys like Rob Lapolus, Matt Laughlin, Steve Cangelosi, who are just flying by the seat of your pants. But I miss that feeling. I miss that fly by the seat of your pants feeling that only hockey can give you. Only this sport on ice. They put guys on skates and tell them to play a sport. I'm so excited. I am too excited, honestly. it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a very interesting season for the Devils. A lot of the predictors have them in a weird spot. So the over-unders came out. Devils are at 90.5 points. And it has them at like 7th in the division. I think the over-unders are overrating the Rangers just because of that's where the money is going to go. But the margin of error on those things are like 6 or 7 points. And 6 or 7 points is the difference between 7th place and leading the division this year in the Metropolitan Division. So that's going to be an interesting take. But Sam, you're back.
I'm back. I'm minding my own business. We're talking about hockey business. Yeah, we're talking about hockey business. Hey, guess what? Our next guest is also in the same predicament as I am, also around the area, dealing with Ida. We're very appreciative of him coming on. His name is Eben Novy-Williams. He's a reporter from Sportico. You can find him on Twitter at Novy_Williams. Eben, you're on with Sam and Nick. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. I'm glad I'm inside right now. It sounds like you're also getting this storm, so happy to be safe and dry.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's a wild storm. And Eben, I really appreciate you coming on and spending some time during these strange times with the storm coming. So appreciate you coming on.
Happy to be there. I mean, I grew up in New Jersey, just right outside where the Devils used to play, and right at the Meadowlands. So this is a team that I've kind of followed my whole life as well.
That's funny. It's funny that the hold that the Devils have on just kind of the media world in general. There's just a lot of strange bedfellows when it comes to this team. But I do want to I want to focus on the business part. I do. There's so many business stories tied to the Devils and tied to hockey. So I kind of want to get your expertise, Eben, on this. You've been learning a lot about sports betting and kind of its impact on sports and these, the NFL apparently is looking at a deal that you were writing about today. I was reading about that, and the astronomical amounts of money. Obviously, there's a lot of advertising dollars in betting, but when you look at places like Europe, the sports book is in the arena, and you can walk up to the window and just make a bet. Is this something that you see for the future, and how do you see the sports betting landscape? Because the Devils were the first team to partner with a sports betting book, but they don't have a book in the arena. They just kind of give you a lounge to do it on your phone. Do you see it changing? Do you see us going to a more bet-friendly environment?
Yeah, I mean, I think as you know, Josh Harris and David Blitzer love to be kind of first movers in a lot of things, especially related to marketing. As you mentioned, they were the first NHL team to have a sports betting partner. I think right now they have 3. It's Betway, PlayUp, and Unibet. The way I understand it, the way that the New Jersey law works right now, I don't think the Devils are allowed to have a sports book in the stadium, in the arena itself, in the same way that there's no sports book at Giant Stadium. But I think we're going to see those things change. The laws that got put out by states kind of early in this process, and as you know, New Jersey was one of the earliest. Those were kind of trial balloons to a degree. And I think as we see other states that are allowing sports books in their arenas and in their stadiums, as we see those work and be successful, I would not be shocked if the states that don't allow it kind of revisit those laws, and I wouldn't be shocked if the Devils are kind of pushing for that to happen. So, the arena down in Washington, D.C. has a sports book. It will be there when the Capitals play. The arena in Arizona is allowed to have a sports book on premises. They will be doing that as well. I believe that's with FanDuel. So we're going to start to see it around the NHL. And no question, if that's an available option to the Devils, they're definitely going to be doing a partnership to do that. As a bettor, someone who kind of casually bets, I'm not sure how much it matters to me personally, as long as I can do it on my phone. I don't feel the need personally to kind of wait in line or get to a kiosk just to place my bet. But the fact is that these things are tremendously successful. And the thing that FanDuel built right next to Giant Stadium is essentially one of the most successful physical brick and mortar sports books in the world, from what I understand. So no question, even though it is something that is available readily on your phone, and most people might prefer to do it that way, the ability to kind of pair an in-person sports book with drinks and with food and with some kind of even nearby access to live sports seems to be a formula that everybody wants to replicate around the country.
Yeah, and I'm definitely I live in Florida, most of the year. So every time I go to New Jersey, my wife's family asks questions because I spend a lot of my time on my phone because I do enjoy sports betting. And but I always wonder how would that enhance the experience? And I'm always kind of with you. I'm there to watch a hockey game. Am I going to go? I love going to the sports book. Say if I go to Vegas, but that's the experience. I'm adding experience on top of experience, and I feel like it's just distracting. So I think I'm with you on that.
It's a huge advantage for the Devils to have these conversations, right? I mean, think about the Dallas Stars, for example. Sports betting probably not going to be legal, mobile sports betting in Texas, probably for a very long time. So these are conversations that the Stars are not going to have for a long time. The Devils were lucky in that they were essentially the first team that was able to sign a sports betting partnership. They did it quickly. They did multiple ones of them. So this is, there's kind of an imparity around the league where there's kind of half the league that is able to do this at all. The other half is kind of just waiting for their state legislator to legalize sports betting so that they can kind of open up this brand new category.
So I want to pivot a little bit. One of the biggest storylines of this offseason that is, I call it much ado about nothing, is jersey ads. There's going to be jersey ads, not next year, but the season after. I'm curious of what your thoughts are on jersey ads because two reasons. One, there's a lot of real estate on the NHL jersey. On the people on video can see. I got the Devils jersey in the background, the long sleeves, lots of red. So it can be a slippery slope. So I understand the people who are upset because of the slippery slope, but on its surface, what is your thoughts of jersey ads?
The word I would use is inevitable. I think that the leagues that already do it right now, obviously the NBA, the WNBA has a much bigger one on the center of its jersey. And the leagues that don't have it are all talking about it. NFL owners have been discussing this for a decade plus. Major League Baseball owners have sold jersey patches for international games. They are certainly discussing having patches on regular season jerseys in the U.S., and I would not be shocked if that doesn't happen in the next year or two. I mean, I think the sad truth is it's valuable real estate. That's been proven by what the NBA did. And as a result, I think all owners in all the major sports are saying, hey, why not open this up? You're right that the fear, I was shocked. We actually broke this news at Sportico. And the reaction from so many people on Twitter was kind of this fear that the NHL was going to very quickly become what you see in Sweden and Finland, which is, hockey jerseys that look like NASCAR cars. That is not going to happen, at least anytime immediately soon. This is, as you guys know, this isn't the first ad that the NHL is selling. That they did the helmet thing last year. There was some kind of resistance to that from fans as well. And I would argue that by game 4 or 5, I didn't notice them at all. And even standing here after all the hockey I watched last year, I don't think I could name you 4 or 5 partners of teams on the helmet. I think it kind of blended in. And my guess is that's what's going to happen with the NHL as well. I don't know a single NBA fan that right now, 4 years into their jersey patches, is still livid that they're selling jersey patches. Most of the jerseys that fans buy don't have the patch on it at all. And that seems to be another thing that fans are kind of bristling at. They don't want to wear something with a big logo on it. They don't have to, at least not right now. My general feeling is, I think what you said is it feels like it's much ado about nothing. And this has been a hard year to own a sports franchise. The owners have lost a lot of money, and if they can get, collectively $100 million by selling patches on their jerseys, I certainly understand the push to do that.
And if it means that tickets aren't going to go up and concessions aren't going to cost through the nose and everything like that, then we should be a little bit happier.
Yeah, if there's a direct line through that, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not totally convinced that is going to be kind of the trade-off for fans. But again, I don't think your average fan or even your avid fan is going to notice or care when these things come out. It just doesn't seem. Just looking at what happened in the NBA, just doesn't seem like that was the result. It just became very quickly kind of a part of the scenery. It's not big. It's 3 inches by 3.5 inches, so a little bit bigger than the NBA jersey patch, but it's not like these are going to be kind of taking over the jersey in any meaningful way.
So if you were in charge of a team, like let's say you're in charge of this marketing campaign for the Devils to find a jersey ad, are you just selling it to the highest bidder, or are you trying to do something that maybe like eases the pain? Like I wrote an article just to kind of ingest that like maybe like Taylor Hammer pork rolls, since that's a New Jersey staple, would ease the pain. You know, things like that.
Wah, wah.
Like would you be looking for that and make it like a marketing thing, a fun thing, or would you go for the highest bidder?
I mean, I personally, I think I would like to say publicly that I was kind of doing something fun, and I certainly wouldn't sell it to the absolute highest bidder, depending on who that bidder is. But I think what you're going to see kind of largely across the league is you're going to see this being done with, you know, companies that sometimes come out of left field. We saw with the helmet ads and the Devils had Prudential, I think, a lot of those helmet ads went to pre-existing team partners. They were kind of make goods for what was, you know, a kind of disappointing from a commercial standpoint, COVID disrupted season. I don't think that's going to be the case with the jersey ads. I think you're going to see more jersey ads in the NHL that come from kind of brand new partners. And again, using the NBA as an example, we saw some that made total sense. The Orlando Magic have the Disney World logo on their jersey. Like that seems like a home run. It's an easy one. There's others that you look at, like the Knicks, and you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I don't even get the connection. So I think you're going to see both. Yeah. Knowing what I know about the Devils and the way they kind of operate in the community, I wouldn't be shocked if you end up with a partner that is local, a partner that is pre-existing, or a partner that kind of means something to the New Jersey and the Newark community in a way that you might not see in other places. But again, I think you're going to see kind of, again, like the NBA, this kind of wide swath between, I've never heard of this company, where did this company come from? And then a lot of deals that are kind of very obviously tied to the team or the city they play in.
So I want to talk about marketing. And I want to talk about, and I asked our previous guest this, I'm curious of what your thoughts are about marketing the team and how important, basically, you know, the Devils have this star player in Jack Hughes, and then they just drafted his brother, Luke Hughes, who's also expected at least turn into somewhat of a really good player. What kind of marketing do you think that does for a team? How easy does that make things? Do you think that it has any impact, or is you know, getting to the next question, do you think winning is the only thing that matters?
Yeah, so I think for the Hughes brothers, there's two questions. One, how good are both of these guys? And if they both live up to their potential, the marketing implications are massive, right? I mean, look at what happened with the Mannings, and I know that's a really high bar, right? But these are two really talented players. There was a brother kind of family connection. They were both really good, and they had the world kind of opened up to them commercially, both of them. Even though I would argue that Eli was not the most charismatic human, like it just like the storylines and how good they were kind of made it this kind of perfect marketing, you know, confluence of events. And part of that also depends on how much the Hughes brothers want to do that stuff. As you know, hockey players specifically are very often kind of resistant to commercial opportunity in a way that athletes in other sports are not. So with those two big caveats, if they are open to doing these things and they're both kind of live up to their potential on the ice, I think the opportunities there are massive. And stepping kind of wider for the Devils, it's clearly a young team, clearly a team that everybody thinks is going to be improving kind of over last year. And that's bearing out in some of the numbers. You know, as I understand it, the Devils are number 7 in the league right now in new season tickets. They're number 10 in the league in tickets held, so renewals across season tickets. Those are two great numbers. Those are numbers that if you're the president of the Devils, if you're an owner of the Devils, you love to see kind of top 10 numbers for both those things. And it shows, I think, kind of this belief among fans that like this team is on the upswing. So to me, that's the marketing right now for the Devils. We've been through some lean years. We got a few really high draft picks. We turn those into prospects that are fairly exciting, including this fun brotherly connection that could be in New Jersey for the next 15 years. And now it's about kind of performing on the ice. So I think that's kind of where the Devils are from a marketing standpoint. It is a young team that is clearly getting better. And it certainly seems like, at least in some metrics, the Devils are succeeding in that with their fans.
Eben, I have a question about non-traditional revenue streams.
Sure.
What are your thoughts about NFTs and how that, because it seems like the Devils are starting to make a move. I've been reading some stuff that, they had a couple things come out, but if memories are going to be made, you want to have a piece of that action, wouldn't you?
Yeah, for sure. This is a question that's being asked in every front office in every sport in the U.S. and probably globally right now. And my general feeling on NFTs is that they're very low risk. A lot of the things that get sold right now don't have a huge, if the Devils want to sell kind of branded hockey pucks, right, there's a huge supply chain they need to go through. They need to source material, design, get them made, probably get them shipped overseas. That's a huge process. The development of NFTs is very often just it's a digital designer that gets put together, and you market them, you serialize them, you maybe attach a something that you might have sold already, like a VIP experience or a ticket package, etc. But the risk is very low because the cost and the time it takes to get these things from ideation to being sold is actually very small. So I think the NFTs they're not going away. I think the idea of digital collectibles is going to continue to be a thing. I don't think they're going to be as buzzy as they have been in the past 6 months, at least in the next couple of years. But if I'm the Devils or if I'm any other team, why am I not looking at this? Again, it doesn't take much to put them together. You get a good graphic designer, have a good idea, maybe package a tangible item with it. You can put them on sale very quickly. They're selling right now. It's the reason DraftKings just got into NFTs. It's the reason Fanatics just got into NFTs. There is a vibrant marketplace for it. And the last thing I'll say on them is that if you look at the demographics, a lot of the people buying NFTs right now are tech-savvy young people. And that is the demographic that every sports league is worried about in the future. Young people, Gen Z, they don't consume sports from a media standpoint the way that older fans do. And that terrifies owners, right, who have relied so heavily on both game day sales and media money to be the thing that kind of drives the entire business. So if they can think of new ways and relatively inexpensive ways to at least reach out and try, hey, here's a 16-year-old who spends all of his time online, reads more Reddit than he reads ESPN.com. If they can create a product for that person and maybe bring them into the Devils ecosystem, that's a huge, huge win.
Wow.
So, Eben, I really appreciate you coming on. I love this interview. I love today. Today's been a great day, Sam. I love talking about business. It's been one of my favorite, creative days in the podcast. But before I let you go, I do want to give you a chance to kind of tell everybody where they can find you, kind of promote some of the stuff you're working on, and tell us what you got coming up next.
Yeah, for sure. So we work for a company called Sportico. We launched a little over a year ago, so fairly new. We're a sports business publication, kind of pride ourselves on, one, breaking big news on sports, and then two, kind of providing context around the way that sports operate off the ice or off the field, which I think is honestly sometimes way more interesting than what's happening on the field or on the ice. But yeah, so Sportico.com is the site. I'm on Twitter at Novy_Williams. One thing we do, which I think, even average fans would be fascinated by, we do valuations for every league and team, and we're going to drop our NHL ones sometime in probably the next month and a half or 2 months, which will be our first NHL valuations, but kind of a big breakdown of the most valuable teams in the league, why they're the most valuable teams in the league. It's not always directly tied to winning, as it turns out. But it's things like that you can find at Sportico that you often can't find anywhere else. So, yeah, I'd encourage your readers to check it out.
That's awesome. Definitely look out for that. And maybe we can, maybe I'll hit you up again when those evaluations come out. Maybe we can collab in some way.
I'm happy to chat anytime, guys.
So Eben, thanks so much for coming on.
Before we let you go, Evan, I just got to sneak this in here. Could you evaluate the Rangers a little bit less this time?
The Rangers, I think, almost definitely, sadly, maybe for some of the people listening, will be the most valuable team.
Could you have
in the NHL?
Could you have an article of the Tom Wilson effect? Evaluation.
They were worth $2 billion before the hit and 1.8 afterwards.
Great. Well, thank you, Eben. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
That is Eben Novy-Williams. You can find him on Twitter at Novy_Williams. I learned a lot about NFTs, valuation, sports marketing today.
The whole kit and caboodle.
I like talking about money.
I love Business Day. Business. It's Business Day.
Absolutely. Actually, you know what? I think this podcast needs to sell some NFTs so we can raise money for our private jet.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah,
we're saucy.
Beer Baron's a graphics designer. It just takes him 8 years before we get a design.
Anyway, no, it was exciting. Love the podcast. Loved today. Today was great. You got your article coming out on Saturday. You got anything else to plug?
Well, also, I just want to thank all the well-wishers on social media. I posted it on my personal account, and the reaction was extremely, overwhelmingly positive. People wanting me to have a chance to win and get to the big dance, and I really appreciate it. I was taken back by it, and we'll see what happens. You know, but on Saturday, hopefully, you can read my blog on pucksandpitchforks.com why I applied to be the next future Devils PA announcer. And what it takes. I sent in the audition, and, you know, I almost lost my voice. Doing it.
That's not good.
Like,
don't admit that on air. Cut that out of the podcast.
Yeah. I'm
this
sure
guy can't get through one goal.
And now here they are, your New Jersey Devils. You know, just like that. I practiced that like 1,000 times. Again, that's enough teasing. Read it on pucksandpitchforks.com on Saturday.
Big month, Sam. Hockey comes back this month. It's both of our birthdays this month.
Oh.
I'm telling you.
When's your birthday?
You gotta send us presents.
When's
the
your
16th
birthday?
is my birthday.
Oh, mine's on the 4th. I was a Labor Day baby back years ago.
Oh, I just remembered. Today's my cousin's birthday. I gotta text him and wish him a happy birthday. Thank God I remember. I got 2 hours.
Nice.
We're good.
Very nice.
We're good. So
very nice.
But yeah, no, it's a big month. Pucks and Pitchforks is just getting started. I'm so excited. Sam, we did 475,000 views in August.
And this is
Not
the off season? Is this the off season?
Not a lick of actual news.
Wow.
Not a lick of actual news.
Wow.
Actually, I don't remember if the Tatar thing technically happened in August, but, you know, we just dominated. The Tarasenko stuff everybody's excited to think of. Just some of the extra free agents. The Quinn Hughes piece did 129,000 views. We had a one piece to 129,000 views, Sam. So David Holliday, friend, listener of the podcast, got the job from the podcast. Now doing 129,000 views.
Wow.
Y'all know the deal. Y'all got paid to write. He's getting a big paycheck at the end of next month, or at the end of this month for that piece. So y'all want to get paid to write about Devils hockey. Pucksandpitchforks.com. Go apply. We're always hiring new writers. Always give me a shot. So go do that. And then at the same time, make sure I got the Severson piece coming out tomorrow morning. We got a Ryan Graves piece on right now. I have so many pieces on because I had to get writing. So we got lots of stuff that still holds true at pucksandpitchforks.com. And yeah, it's exciting. Exciting, Sam.
Yep. Well, I'd like to thank Eben. I'd like to thank Owen for coming on to the podcast. Thank you, the fans. Enjoy your 3-day weekend. And remember, pucksandpitchforks.com. Until next time, let's go Devils.